Hi, I'm Jamie Quinn. Welcome to One on One. Today's episode is all about humor. Stay with us because coming up, I'll be sitting down with a man who earns his living in the funny business. He's often the subject of his own comedy, and poking fun at his culture is what keeps audiences laughing. Stay tuned for a chuckle. I'll be sitting down with comedian Russell Peters. He's performed for crowds of 20,000, played at Massey Hall, and is a regular at Yuck Yucks. Welcome, Russell Peters. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for waiting around for me.
We know you are a comedian and definitely a good person to have at a party. Have you always been funny?
I guess I have.
From the time you can remember?
I was more snarky than funny, you know what I mean?
And what did your parents say about you growing up? Did they say you were funny? Did they say you should
No,
go?
my parents are like the ones that really don't get the whole funny thing.
Oh, okay.
When I was being funny, they would just tell me to shut up.
Okay.
They're like, shut up, you're making too much noise.
Were you a little sarcastic in your humor growing up?
A little bit sarcastic.
Okay.
A little bit cynical, you know.
Can you remember your first joke?
I can remember the first joke I wrote. I was like in grade 7 or 8 or something. It was like back in '83 or something.
How did that go?
It was when AIDS had just, it was a really bad joke, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It was like 12, 13 years old, you know what I mean?
Sure, but you've come
It was when
along.
AIDS had just, you know, started to get press, and I said to one of my friends, could you imagine the cover of Time magazine? AIDS, who gets screwed in the end? And that's my first joke.
And that's where it all started.
I don't know if that's where it all started, but that was the first joke I ever remember writing down to my friend going, man, that was really good.
Now, did you study humor or did you study comedy in college?
No, I never went to college. I didn't even go to a proper high school.
Okay.
I went to a trade school in Brampton. It was politically correct to say, but everybody called it the retard school. I went to the retard school. It looked like Tony Hawk designed my school with all those ramps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I've heard you've actually had a little bit of a rough upbringing. And you grew up in a white neighborhood, or a black neighborhood.
No, I grew up in Brampton in the 70s and 80s, before it was the pre-Brown Brampton.
Okay.
So it was white and black families.
Okay.
And I think it's safe to say which side of the street I walked on.
And so at the time, the white kids were kind of making fun of you.
Yeah, picking on me, kicking me, punching me, whatever made them happy at that time.
Okay. So you went in and hung out with the black
Hung around
young
the black
people.
kids.
And, you know, how was that? What was that like?
Just like hanging around regular people.
Yeah.
They just happen to be black. But, you know, their influences are different. You know what I mean? If I hung around white kids, I'd probably play hockey and talk a little differently and dress a little differently and probably have different musical tastes.
Okay, so what do you have now because of that?
Well, now all my friends are still very black. You know.
And you listen to different music?
I listen to hip-hop still, you know what I
Okay.
mean? And my influences are all very black-oriented, and where my reference points are come from a different point of view.
Now, I've read just through my research that, you know, because people were picking on you and that sort of thing, you almost had a bit of a rage. So you went into boxing at about age 15.
Yep.
And tell me about how that was an outlet.
Well, I started boxing when I was 15 because when I started going to the school, you're not going to edit that, I know you are. He doesn't want to, you're going to beep it or something.
I don't know.
But when I started going there, it was a tough school, so it was like, I used to get beat up at the other high school, so I was like, you know what, I can't get beat up at this school, nobody knows me, so it'll be perfect. So I started boxing, and I kept boxing for 9 years.
And then at what point did you turn boxing or turn your rage and releasing that rage or that anger or whatever it was you had through boxing? When did you bring that to the comedy stage? At what point?
Well, I started doing stand-up in '89.
Okay.
And I started boxing in '85, so.
And how'd you get into stand-up?
It was one of those things, you know. I mean, I got the confidence from boxing. I kept boxing just because I loved doing it. I didn't actually keep doing it because I wanted to beat people up. That was never my motivation.
Okay.
And then I got the confidence from boxing, and then I started doing stand-up in '89, and I was also DJing at night to make money because I had to make money. You're not going to make money in stand-up. In the first 5 years, you're not going to make money. If you plan on doing stand-up, plan for 5 years to not make any money.
Okay. We'll definitely take those words of advice. What about the area in which you choose to center your jokes? A lot of times I've heard you're poking fun at your own culture. And what sort of response have you received from audience from that?
Well, I initially started, poking fun at my own culture, and then I realized, hey, you know what? I can poke fun at everybody's culture.
Okay.
So I'm going to.
All right.
So I don't really care what you are, you're going to get it.
Okay.
If I know something about you, I'm going to give it to you, you know what I mean? If I know nothing about you, I can't make fun of you because I don't know anything about you.
So do you
and that's where racism comes from, is people making fun of people because they don't know anything about them. People misunderstand what I'm doing for that. But if I make fun of somebody of whatever culture or race they are, I'm doing it from a perspective of I know something about you. So I'm doing it from the real angle rather than the stereotypical angle.
You are an advocate of racism is wrong, and meanwhile, you're making fun of other cultures.
That's right. It's not really ironic, it's more helpful. Mm-hmm. It's because the thing is with racism is people talk about things in a way that they don't know anything about it. But if I talk to a Chinese guy and I'm making fun of him, he can't get mad because everything I'm saying to him is probably true.
So you're not ignorant?
No, I'm not ignorant. I've traveled the world, you know what I mean? I've seen places, and my whole thing is, draw from what you know. Don't ever talk about stuff you don't know about. You'll never hear me talk about politics. I'm an idiot when it comes to politics.
Now, you said that you poke fun of your own culture, mm-hmm. and basically maybe poking fun at the rituals and the traditions of your own family. So what does your immediate family think of that? Do they find it funny?
Yeah, they still, my dad's like 78 years old, he doesn't really care. He's kind of like, I've got bigger things to worry about than your stupid jokes.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So my mom and dad, they're proud and they'll watch me when I'm on TV. And then my dad will look at me and go, I don't know, I think you can write better material. Okay. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. That's very sweet of you to say.
And did they think being a comedian was a good career path for you?
Still, don't really think they get it.
Really?
Like, I'll tell them, like, I just got the lead in a movie. We start shooting in October in New York. And I was like, Dad, I got the lead in a movie. And he's like, that's nice. Are they paying you? Like, it's rather than say, wow, that's great. He doesn't understand the impact of getting the lead in a movie. It's not like this type of stuff just happens. But they think that, like, that's just what happens. Like, that's just how it goes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll get a lead in a movie. Whoop-de-doo. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't understand the impact of these things.
Meanwhile, it's taking you many years to get to this
14 years.
Point. 14 years.
I was the first Indian comic ever anywhere. So I have to open all the doors for myself. And I still have to work like 10 times harder than everybody else. It doesn't bother me because I've been doing it now for 14 years. I've been working that hard for 14 years. Mm-hmm. So to keep working that hard doesn't really affect me. It doesn't annoy me or nothing. It's kind of like, it's the price you got to pay.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, do you find you do have a competitive edge in other ways?
No, I use a more motivated edge than I don't like competition at all.
But I mean, do you have something that sets you apart from maybe other comedians? Although you have to work twice as hard. Do you have something they don't?
I think it's the ability to work that hard. Or to keep motivated, you know what I mean? A lot of guys will turn sour maybe after even like 6-7 years. And you'll see them and you're like, what are you so bitter from? Man, I'm not getting a break. Well, it's not up to them to give you, it's up to you to get the break made for you. Right. But everybody expects things handed to them, and life doesn't work like that.
Well, all of a sudden comedy is getting a little serious.
That's right.
Yeah. You're treating it as a business.
Well, it's not a business because I love what I do. I love getting on stage and I love to make people laugh. And my whole thing is I love being an idiot on stage. I love being stupid on stage. I don't want to get up there and be that guy that goes, this is wrong. You shouldn't do this. I want to be the guy that's like, hey, look at me. You know what I mean? I want to be the same jackass that I always was and get paid for it.
Do you ever find that you just don't feel like being funny sometimes? Mm-hmm. But you have a gig, you've got to get on stage.
Gig.
So what do you do?
And if the audience is on your side, man, that'll help you. That'll motivate you right back up to doing it. But if you're already not in the mood to do it and the audience gives you a little attitude, that ends for a very tense evening.
Okay.
Because I'm not afraid to tell the audience that I think they're morons. Okay. Do you know what I mean? I'm also not afraid to tell them that I think they're wonderful. Okay. My whole problem is that I don't censor myself sometimes.
Now, I think that gets into territory of when is vulgar or when is rude too rude on the stage? And is there a fine line between that? I know I've sometimes been to comedy clubs and at times sort of felt like walking out because I thought, I don't think you have to be that rude to be that funny.
It depends on the guy's motivation behind what he's saying. You know what I mean? You can tell by somebody's look in their eyes or in their face when they're saying something how they feel about that situation, you know what I mean?
So if you have the motivation behind what you're saying, it's just
like if you're saying something just to shock them and not to make them laugh, then expect people to get up and leave. But if you're saying something shocking that is shocking, but it's funny, and somebody leaves, then that person's got a problem, not you, because you're the one, you're trying to say something funny that, you know, you may have thought or whatever, or maybe something so outrageous. There's guys out there, I have a friend, Jason Rouse, who says some really outrageous things, but he's so funny.
Okay.
Like the stuff he says, I wouldn't even think of saying.
Okay.
Like it's stuff that I would be like, wow, I can't believe you said that.
So
but
what you say,
it's hilarious.
You have to be able to pull it off.
You have to be able to pull it off. That's the trick.
Okay. So how do you find new material? What inspires you?
Just everyday things. I talk about reality. That's why a lot of people sometimes have a problem with what I do, because they're trying to escape reality, and I'm trying to remind them that reality is pretty funny. You know, I do some stuff now about gay marriages. You know, people have a problem with gay marriages. I'm like, why do you have a problem with something that's never going to affect your life? You know what I mean? If I'm not a gay man, a gay marriage is never going to affect me. And as an Indian man, I got bigger things to worry about, like arranged marriages. It's only going to be a problem when they got arranged gay marriages. That's when you got problems. You know what I mean? That's when you got problems.
Now, you say some people have a problem with what you do, and when do you come across that?
Sometimes, you know what the thing is? It's like some people try to make a noise. Like I was doing a gig about a month ago at a college, and some, like a white girl in the audience said that I was racist. And I'm like, what the hell? It was a blonde, like yourself, a very cute blonde white girl who thought she was being, you know, the leader of the group. I'm going to be the white girl to lead you darkies out of this path. And she thought she would be the one to try and tell me that what I'm saying is wrong and it's not helping and that it's racist. And I'm like, what the hell do you know about racism? Like the stuff, like when somebody comes to me with a problem that I know that they have nothing, they're just trying to be some sort of rebel rouser or something, I'm like, man, shut up. Don't talk to me about nothing you don't know.
So is that a reoccurring theme? Sometimes people take it in the sense that maybe you're actually being racist?
Yeah, they completely misunderstand the whole thing. And it's like, it's one of those things of, like, you can go and ask the person who I'm saying something about, what he said just now, did that offend you? 9.5 times out of 10, they'll say, no, what he said was actually pretty real.
You know, they're
Do you know
Asian
what I mean?
and I'm Asian. Any Chinese, woo, are you here? Woo, 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 woo. I love Chinese people, man. You got to date a Chinese girl. They're hype, man. That was good, man. Wouldn't it have been wicked, though, if we got serious? Picture that, a Chinese girl, an East Indian guy. We could have had, like, the baddest convenience store on the block, man.
Now, what about the differences between the way your parents lived and the way you're living now, and what that means to you?
My parents were never like the traditional Indian family in the first place. They're both Anglo-Indian. They both mixed with British and Indian. So their first language is English, and then their second language is whatever part of India they were from.
Okay.
And so I didn't grow up with the traditional Indian system of, you know, you must do this, and you must go and pray here, and you must do that. I grew up Catholic, you know what I mean? So.
In terms of opportunity, do you feel you have a little more opportunity than your parents did?
Well, my thing is I refuse to do things that I don't want to do, whereas my parents did what they had to do to make things happen for themselves. You know what I mean? They weren't afraid to, you know, go clean a toilet or something, whereas I'm like, I'm not cleaning a toilet. Do you know what I mean?
Do you make enough money to have someone clean your toilet for you?
No, I'm too anal to let somebody, anal, toilet, see what I'm saying? See, the connections just can't stop being made. I'm very particular about my stuff. I have to clean everything myself. I'm very like that.
Okay. But has it been a lucrative business for you in the recent years?
It's been wonderful for me.
Yeah. Can comedians get rich, or?
They will tell you that in Canada you cannot get rich. But I think I'm living proof that you can do very well for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we've got the Jim Carreys of this world.
Yeah, I mean, comedians obviously run Hollywood, basically, if you look at all the major stars. Comedians or comedic actors. And I did a movie last year with Eddie Griffin, and John Amos was working on the movie with us. John Amos was the father in Good Times, and he was Kunta Kinte. Remember Kunta Kinte? Yeah, he was Kunta Kinte. So I was hanging out with him one night, and I was asking him about acting, because I don't have a lot of experience with acting. And he was telling me that he could take anybody off the street and spend 1 hour with them, and they can deliver a dramatic scene like they've been acting all their lives. He said, I could take an actor who's been acting and spend a month with him and try to make him deliver a comedic scene, and it just won't happen the same way. I said comedy's it's an innate thing, you know what I mean? Either you have it or you don't have it.
To get really big, would you have to go to Hollywood? Is that where you're headed?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's just the way it goes, you know what I mean? Growing up in North America, we don't have a lot of options, especially in Canada. Canada very rarely gets behind their artists. They get behind us when the States is behind us, and that to me is a little bit, I don't know if you're probably going to blur that or something, but Canada really does nothing to support us. Do you know what I mean? I have to leave this country in order to make a good living.
And what changes would you like to see here?
I think it'll happen. It'll change. We'll create our own scene. There's a lot of old people running the business right now that don't understand what Canada looks like now. They don't understand what Canada sounds like now.
What does Canada look like and sound
Canada doesn't look like how it looked 30, 40 years ago.
The images we're seeing on TV.
Yeah, like the guys that run, I don't want to say which corporations because I know them, but you know, the guys that run the media in this country are older white guys that when they were growing up, they were listening to, you know, the Grateful Dead and stuff, and they're picturing everybody as a big white country we live in. And if you travel this country, it's not a big white country we live in. There's a lot of white people and a lot of non-white people, and the non-white people and the white people get along just fine. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not like the brown people just do brown things and the white people just do white things and the black people just do black things. Everybody hangs out together. Everybody does the exact same things, but in their heads, this is for us, and if these people don't like it, that's too bad. They're just going to have to learn to like this.
But you can see a shift possibly.
It'll shift, because the younger guys are going to come in, and they're going to go, this isn't right. This isn't how a beer commercial should look with a bunch of white guys sitting around. Do black people, Chinese people, Indian people, they don't drink beer? You know what I mean? The only time you see an Indian guy in a commercial is if it's a long-distance commercial. Comedy,
really, in your case, seems to be making a very, very strong statement.
Well, it's got a message in it, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm just doing it arbitrarily. I want to make people laugh, but at the same time, I've been told sometimes that I could go teach a history class, you know what I mean? Because I'll give you actual dates when I'm on stage. I will say, at this time in 16 whatever. It's not like I took an education course on it or nothing. It's just something that's always fascinated me as to, you know, how things happen. This is why things are the way they are now. You have to know how or why it happened in order to understand why this is happening now.
So how much research and preparation?
Not that much.
Not a lot goes into. How long are your performances in general?
When I'm headlining, I do about an hour.
An hour stand-up.
When I'm in South Africa, I do an hour and a half, one-man show. Sometimes.
And that's crowds, very large crowds. 2,000,
1,500 seat theaters are sold out for like 5-6 weeks at a time. So that's the thing. I go to South Africa, I get billboards with my head on it, and I'm treated like a superstar, you know? I go to my hotel, I check in, I change my name because I'll get harassed if I don't. Right. I've been Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan. I've been Roy Jones Jr. I always pick boxers or basketball players.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? I leave here and I get treated like a celebrity. I come home and I'm like, Russell, do you want to go to Peterborough for our, you know, whatever amount? I'm like, no, I don't want to go to Peterborough to be stared at. Do you know what I mean?
Do you sit down? Do you write your jokes? Do they come to you?
No, you just talk to people and things come to you. You know what I mean?
Do you go up there and you have no idea what you're going to say until it comes out of your mouth?
No, you always need to know your I always need to know my beginning and my ending.
Okay.
And the middle I'll fill in as I go along.
Okay. And do you often reuse your material?
Always. You have to. If a comedian doesn't, he's brilliant. And I'm not brilliant by any stretch of the imagination.
And how often do you bring new items into your acts?
I try to bring in new stuff at least monthly. You know what I mean? Whether it's one joke or whatever. You got to keep it new. I'm in a fortunate position where I've got a following, which means people do come out to see me. And people don't want to come out to see if you're going to do the same old thing every time. People are going to be like, we saw that last time. But, you know, if they come within, you know, I say if you see me 1 year, see me a year later.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But if you want to come and see the same thing, come see me in 2 months.
Do your friends think you're funny when you're hanging out?
My friends think I'm funny, I think. You better think I'm funny.
Okay.
I'm more, but with my friends, I'm really rude. It's not rude per se, but it's just like I say some really, you know, when you're with your friends, you say whatever you want to say.
Do you ever find you offend people? They just don't get it?
Yeah, sometimes, and I just always equate it to them being stupid. That's the way it goes. If you don't get me, you're a dumb.
Let's talk about your first time on stage.
First time on stage was, you know, it's your first time on stage. It was like 1989. I just turned 19, and I had nothing to say. At 19, what do you know? Do you know what I mean? I knew about pooing and going, listening to hip hop and breakdancing, I didn't know a lot. So I wasn't very good. But every comic, you know what they need? Every comic needs to get booed off stage at least once or twice.
Were you?
Oh yeah. Not then, but it was in my 4th year of doing stand-up, and my confidence was riding high, so I was feeling really good about myself. And I got taken out, man. I got booed off stage, and my mouth went dry, and I thought I was going to cry. I thought I was going to pass out. I wanted to die right then. But that's what tests everybody. That to me everything is an analogy to boxing. It's like somebody hits you in the chin, and if you can come back after getting knocked out, then you're a real fighter. You know what I mean? And that's getting knocked out when you get booed off stage.
Anyone who's interested in making it in comedy and would like to be a comedian, they can look at you and the path you've taken and probably learned a lot. But what have been the words of wisdom that you've lived by?
George Carlin, I met him in 1991 or 92, and I was the biggest George Carlin fan ever. And fortunately for me, he was one of the nicest guys I ever met in the business. And when I told him what a fan I was and that I was doing stand-up, at the time I'd been doing like 2-3 years, you know what I mean? I wasn't anything, you know what I mean? But I asked him for some advice, and he said, get on stage as much as possible. If you can get on stage for 2 minutes, go and get on that stage for 2 minutes. If you can get 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, the more stage time you get, the better you get.
And that's exactly what you've been doing, a regular at Yuck Yucks now.
Mm-hmm. That's why I don't really care if I have to wait any longer to do whatever I got to do, because the way I look at it is the longer you wait, the better you get. It's not like boxing where you got a shelf life, you know what I mean? If you don't get a title shot by a certain age, when you do get the title shot, you're going to get knocked out. Mm-hmm. Comedy works in your favor the older you get. And
not just stand-up in your case now. You said filming for movies as well. You've done some specials for CBC, CTV. You've traveled to Britain, done a lot of work there. Would you say there are any highlights in your career so far?
My favorite thing in my career so far was hosting Miss Nude UK. Oh. That was the best gig in the entire world. Any man would have loved that show.
Any regrets? Any big challenges?
No regrets yet. Hopefully, I'll never have any regrets. Challenges is just being the first guy to do the thing, you know what I mean? When you're the first, things are going to be a little bit harder, but I've taken that upon myself. It's fine. I got no problem with it now.
And perhaps a little easier for those who come after.
Yeah, hopefully. It has been, there's a lot of new brown kids coming up now, and they didn't have to do half the stuff I had to do. And a lot of them are getting lazy now. I mean, that's the bad thing, is that a lot of guys won't want to work that hard now. And when they come to me with a problem like, Russell, I can't get booked. I'm like, well, be funnier. Do you know what I mean? Don't think just because you're this, you're going to get the work. No, you got to be this, and this, and this. You know what I mean? My theory is image, material, charisma. You got to have everything. You can be a great writer and a bad performer. You can be a good performer and a bad writer. You got to be both. And then you got to look good. You got to dress right. You know what I mean? You got to have something that people want.
And you smile on stage a lot. I
smile a lot because I have a theory about smiling. If you smile, you can say anything to anybody in the world. You see?
They may not answer.
See, if you smile, it's not offensive. But if I went, hey, you know what I mean? See, you're turning pink, though. I love that. Just smile it up. Smile it up. You'll be fine.
Do you see yourself as a role model?
A lot of kids have told me that, they look up to me, and that I've had a lot of Indian kids come up and tell me that we've had nobody to look up to until you came around, which is a really cool thing because I never set out to do that. Do you know what I mean? But when kids tell me that, it actually makes me go like, wow, I've had an impact on somebody's life. You know what I mean?
And a serious one at that.
Yeah, and some kids tell me that they started doing stand-up because they saw me. You know what I mean? Whatever the case may be, I guess I am a bit of a role model. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, so I'm a good role model.
And what's next? What can we expect from you in the future?
I got the lead in this movie. Miramax is going to distribute it. It's going to be my ticket, I think.
Are you the next brown Jim Carrey?
Jim Curry, do you mean?
Maybe.
I don't know. I hope so. It's a romantic comedy, so I don't know if I'm going to be the next Jim Carrey, but we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for the best from it. You know what I mean? I got to do the best job I can. Always do 150%. If you don't, people will know. that you didn't care.
Well, best of luck, and we certainly will be watching.
Thanks, Jamie.
And that wraps up another segment of One on One. Thanks so much for being with us, Russell Peters.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
Hey, where have I seen this guy before? I've seen you working cameras before or something.
Are you going to tell some jokes?
No. Let's stay here and go two guys walking to a bar.
Sure.
Yeah, no. How can I, are you Hungarian?
No, I'm Scottish and Irish.
Are you? I've been there. Been to both countries. Did shows there. Spent a month and a half in Scotland. I know why your parents left.
Okay. Well, not a lot of sunshine anyway.
Not a lot of sunshine. Not a lot of good food. A lot of hot oil and deep fried pizzas.